The iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max could be preparing for one of the most meaningful iPhone camera upgrades in recent history, a next-generation variable aperture main lens. If the latest supply chain chatter is accurate, Apple is finally moving beyond the long-running fixed aperture approach and stepping into true, physically adjustable optics, something Android flagships have experimented with, but rarely at Apple's scale. However, this upgrade isn't just exciting for photographers, it's also expensive. According to well-known supply chain analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, Apple is reportedly paying around 50% more for this new moving optics lens component compared to the camera lens unit used in current iPhone Pro models. To understand why this matters, it helps to look at what iPhone Pro cameras have been doing for years. From the iPhone 14 Pro through to the iPhone 17 Pro generation, Apple's main camera has relied on a fixed aperture, most recently the f1.78 lens that has become standard across multiple Pro releases. A fixed aperture means the lens opening doesn't change size. In other words, the camera can adjust shutter speed, ISO, and computational processing, but the physical light-gathering hole in the lens stays the same. A variable aperture system changes that entire philosophy. Instead of one fixed opening, the lens can physically expand or shrink the aperture to control how much light reaches the sensor. That may sound like a small technical tweak, but it's a major shift because it adds a real mechanical element to the camera, something that can complement Apple's computational photography, rather than relying on it for everything. In practical, everyday shooting, variable aperture can deliver a noticeable difference. For example, a wider aperture can let in more light, which helps in low-light environments like restaurants, night streets, indoor events, or concerts, scenarios where you typically want brighter images without pushing ISO too high. On the other hand, a smaller aperture can be useful in bright daylight, preventing overexposure and helping preserve detail in highlights like skies, reflective surfaces, or harsh sunlight scenes, but it's not just about brightness. Variable aperture can also influence depth of field, how much of your image looks sharp versus blurred. While iPhones already create background blur using portrait mode and software-based depth mapping, optical control can make certain shots look more natural, especially in tricky edge cases like hair, glasses, transparent objects, or fine details. And for everyday shooters, it could mean more consistent results. Fewer blown-out highlights in bright scenes, cleaner details in mixed lighting, and potentially better subject separation without the cutout look that software sometimes produces. Now here's the key part of the leak. Kuo claims the average selling price, ASP, of this variable aperture lens component is roughly 50% higher than Apple's current high-end lens. Today's iPhone 17 Pro main camera is said to use a premium 7-element plastic lens, often referred to as a 7P lens. A 50% cost increase at the component level is huge, especially for a flagship product that sells in massive volumes. That kind of jump also suggests this isn't just a minor revision or small supplier change. It points to a more complex piece of hardware with tighter tolerances, more complicated assembly, and added mechanical parts that make manufacturing more expensive. And when manufacturing complexity goes up, supply chain decisions become even more important. That's why Sunny Optical is becoming a major part of this story. The report suggests Sunny Optical could secure around 40% to 50% of Apple's orders for these new variable aperture lens components. If that happens, it positions Sunny Optical as a key supplier for one of Apple's biggest camera transitions in years, potentially putting the company at the center of iPhone camera hardware evolution moving forward. Sunny Optical's role may not stop at iPhone either. Kuo also notes that Sunny Optical has become a new compact camera module, CCM supplier for Apple, starting with production tied to an upcoming MacBook Neo. What makes that interesting is the momentum behind this rumored new Mac. Shipments of the MacBook Neo are reportedly performing much better than expected, prompting Kuo to double his 2026 shipment forecast from 5 million units to 10 million units. That's not a small adjustment. It's a major upward revision, and it implies Apple's entry-level Mac strategy may be landing with consumers more strongly than early expectations suggested. Looking beyond 2026 and even beyond iPhone 18 Pro, Kuo also hints at longer-term camera packaging changes. By around 2028, Apple's ultra-wide camera module may transition away from flip-chip packaging and adopt an improved COB chip-on-board design. That kind of change may sound niche, but it can have real benefits. A thinner or smaller camera module could free up internal space for other parts like battery capacity, cooling improvements, speakers, or additional sensors. Alternatively, it could enable better image quality within the same size, depending on how Apple uses the added efficiency. Once again, Sunny Optical is said to be well-positioned to become a supplier for that future shift, suggesting the company could be building a long-term partnership footprint in Apple's camera ecosystem. The leak also includes a surprising extra detail. Kuo claims Sunny Optical has secured component orders related to 2 OpenAI devices, one reportedly being a smartphone, and the other described as a pocket or mobile device. While details are extremely limited, the implication is clear. Sunny Optical's optics and camera component business may be expanding beyond Apple into other major next-generation consumer hardware projects. All of this brings us to the biggest question consumers care about. Will iPhone 18 Pro prices go up? Traditionally, when a major component becomes significantly more expensive, companies either raise prices or protect margins by cutting costs elsewhere. But leaks suggest Apple may choose a different strategy here, absorbing the higher manufacturing costs instead of increasing retail pricing for the iPhone 18 Pro lineup. If true, that would be a notable move for Apple, especially given how Apple typically protects premium margins. The logic behind this strategy is competitive. Premium Android phones have been steadily increasing in price, and Apple may see a rare opening to hold prices steady while advertising a major hardware upgrade, using the variable aperture camera as a headline feature to win more high-end buyers. In terms of the broader camera system, the iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max are expected to remain broadly similar to the iPhone 17 Pro series, except for the main camera upgrade. The key rumored change is a 48-megapixel main camera gaining variable aperture capability. If leaks remain consistent, Apple could stick with a triple 48-megapixel setup across wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto, and then deliver additional image improvements through processing rather than huge sensor changes. That's where Apple's next-generation A20 Pro chip could play a big role, particularly through its upgraded ISP, image signal processor. Even when camera hardware remains similar, a stronger ISP can improve dynamic range, texture handling, skin tones, HDR behavior, low-light detail, and video processing, often in ways that are instantly visible to everyday users. And speaking of everyday use, the iPhone camera experience isn't only about hardware. On the software side, there are also rumors that Apple is preparing a revamped camera app for the iPhone 18 Pro era, possibly tied to iOS 27. The leaked claims suggest Apple may offer more flexibility in how camera toggles and controls are arranged, something power users have wanted for a long time. There's also talk that Siri could become a more permanent, integrated option within the camera interface, potentially enabling visual intelligence features directly from the viewfinder. If Apple executes that well, it could make the camera app not just more customizable, but also smarter and faster for real-world shooting. Right now, the iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max are expected to launch in fall 2026. They may also arrive alongside Apple's first foldable iPhone, which could make that launch season one of Apple's most aggressive and experimental product cycles in years. If the variable aperture leak is accurate, Apple is not just tweaking the camera again. It's investing in a more complex, more expensive hardware upgrade to push iPhone photography forward, even if it means taking a hit on manufacturing costs to stay competitive.